Greetings, dear viewers. This is George from Ireland, and this video is about the transgender fallacy. It's a fad that has spread in the past few years, the notion that significant numbers of people are transgender. Now, let me state the obvious. People are either male or female. I would hope most people would know that. There is a tiny, tiny number of people who are hermaphrodites, who have ambiguous genitals, or even both sets of genitals. I'm not quite sure how frequent that is. There's also a thing called androgen intolerance syndrome. You may know the default setting for human fetuses, or even at the embryonic stage rather, is to be female, and some of them develop into males. So some of them are due to be male, but for some reason the body is intolerant to androgens, as in male hormones, and these sexual characteristics don't develop the male generative organs, and so that's that. So these people who've got androgen intolerance syndrome, they're born as female, they have vaginas and so forth. However, they're incapable of becoming pregnant, things like that. They're not particularly feminine in their look, in their fat distribution, and so forth. They might be unusually tall and have fairly deep voices for women. But nevertheless, it's clear that they are female, not male. So we know about the chromosomes XX or XY, just occasionally someone's XXY, as again, this person will be a woman in the narrowest sense of the word, but would be a rather masculine woman and incapable of conceiving. So that said, apart from these incredibly rare cases, people are male or female, and that's unambiguous. Now, I know there's some people who are unhappy being either male or female. There's some people who become eunuchs, and it's not a new or a Western thing. I know, like in India, there are hijras, there are eunuchs, and they dress as women, behave as women, call each other she, and wear lots of makeup and perfume, are now generally a nuisance, harassing people like me on trains till we give them money, or being paid to annoy people so they pay their debts, things like that. Won't go into it. Or going around in Pakistan and men feel, well, it's not indecent because it's a man I'm looking at, but I can still fancy this person, not be actually gay, and they act as rent boys. So there were women through history who pretended to be male for gain, such as Dr. James Barry. James wasn't his real name, someone who qualified as a doctor at the University of Edinburgh in the early 19th century. He, she, it. This young woman arrived at Edinburgh University saying, I'm 18 and a boy, and they said, well, you look far too young, you can't be 18. Anyway, won't go too much into Dr. Barry's story, but she qualified as a doctor pretending to be a man, and served in South Africa with great distinction, was unusually small, had no facial hair, had a high voice, and was very sympathetic towards women, and all the rest of it, died unwed, and strictly wanted to be buried fully clothed without any examination of the body. It was discovered this person was female. But that's another story. So this lunacy has got around, the idea that large numbers of people are actually born in the wrong body, and if somebody calls himself a woman, in fact he's a man, we should accept this and go along with that. I heard of another troubling case at a school in the United Kingdom. It was an all-girls school with boarding, and one of the girls, as a teenager, decided that she was a boy and wanted to be called by the boys' version of her name and wear boys' clothes and things like that, and have a different dormitory, and it was crazy. You're a girl, only girls are admitted to this school, and the school had to go along with that, and then she wants to be a girl, and then she wants to be a boy, and kept changing her mind. What's worse, I suppose, is her mother was a psychiatrist. Is this a mental disorder? But perhaps we're a little bit too tolerant. Even 20 years ago, this girl would have been told, you are a girl, and you are going to be happy with that, and firmly tell her that, and after a few weeks, she would have grown out of this silly behaviour. But, oh no, we have to believe what they believe and accept that, which is preposterous. We know it's bogus. Why should I have to make a misstatement? I don't want to be forced to say things which are false. Why do we all have to go along with this absurd lie? So I know that some people have gender reassignment, and okay, we could accept them as having changed sex, but when they haven't done this, why do we have to accept that? Is it a psychiatric illness or a psychological condition? I don't know, I'm not a psychiatrist. But can these things really be empirically judged? Some things are medical, and let's say we could tell what's blood group somebody is, or tell if somebody had a certain disease. And these things are objectively determinable by a scientific test. But are these things just matters of opinion? Doesn't fashion exist even in something like psychiatry? Doctors say, I'm seeking a second opinion on certain things. Now, I know opinion has to be based on some knowledge, it's not just prejudice. And some opinions carry more weight than others. Experts in such matters, their opinion should count for more than mine. But do people self-select to get into this sphere and say, well, I'm an expert on it because I'm sympathetic to those who want to change their gender identity? Are they a bought priesthood, these psychiatrists and psychologists? And it seems to get into the group, one has to subscribe to certain shibboleths. And one of the totems of modern psychology and psychiatry would be, oh, it's okay, you can change gender, and gender is a social construct, when we know it's something biological. We can tell what you are. So if I say I'm a giraffe, that doesn't make me a giraffe. If a woman says that she's a man, we don't have to believe her because she's not. You know, if I'm going around saying everyone has to address me as your majesty, well, they don't. That's ridiculous. They're wrong. No matter how strongly I believe that, how often I say that, it's plain wrong. There is such a thing as true and untrue. So it's incorrect to say that a female is a male or vice versa. I wonder if it's just because it's fashionable, it's attention seeking. And so some adolescents can be influenced by others and they want to create a splash. And I was a little bit like that as well. Are these teenagers being contrarian? Now there's a Canadian law saying that we have to accept someone's gender identity and use their preferred pronoun. Again, that's preposterous. So it's in the highest degree absurd that we should be obliged to make these misstatements. I do not want to be forced to lie. Why are we saying these fallacies? So now in Canada, it's a crime not to tell an untruth. There we are. So I wonder whether these certain professions go in for confirmation bias, and they're all reading academic papers which say largely the same thing. So for professional advancement, one must subscribe to certain pieties. I wonder if the Western world will regain its sanity in a decade or two and say, what was that about when we went wrong with this ridiculous notion that girls are boys and boys are girls and you can shift back between them all the time and everybody has to believe that. It's an emperor's new clothes syndrome. A toddler could tell you who's a girl and who's a boy, but all of a sudden these highly intelligent people are spouting absolute drivel. It takes a very high level of education to believe something which is so plainly specious. But there we are. Perhaps we should all grow out of it. I'm a boy, by the way, in case you hadn't noticed, and no, that wasn't a choice, but I'm content with it.